Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a superhero movie review and I'll be having a look at Son of Batman. So this is a 2014 release and it's adapted from basically the DC comic books, and they've been doing these kind of for a little while now, adapting these existing storylines and making them sort of animated movies. So this one basically deals, as you may have guessed, the Son of Batman. We're introduced to Damian in kind of the beginning of the movie, where we see Deathstroke and his kind of mercenary army, I suppose, attack Ra's al Ghul and his kind of League of Assassins compound in essentially a coup. And because of this, Talia al Ghul turns up at Batman's doorstep and pretty much says, "Here's your son." Okay, Batman doesn't believe her first of all, but ultimately he sort of accepts it and decides that he's going to kind of train Damian, because ultimately Damian is just a kind of killer, because he's just been trained by assassins all this time. He's kind of a bloodthirsty and arrogant little sod. And, it's kind of him training Damian and building that kind of relationship, and also trying to get him to sort of stop being this sort of bloodthirsty killer and ultimately take down Deathstroke in his plan to sort of for world domination. That's all I'll say about the plot. I don't want to spoil it in too much detail, so go check it out. So what's good and bad about this movie? Well, let me tackle the negatives first of all. The negatives, I would say the first thing that sticks out to me is the voice acting. Specifically, I would say Deathstroke really stands out here, because the voice actor that they've got really just doesn't suit the character one iota, and it's just very sort of miscast. So, and on the subject of Deathstroke, but he does seem slightly out of character to me. He doesn't seem like you would expect him to see in the comics. He kind of comes across as sort of slightly different personality, so I didn't really kind of like that too much. The other thing I would say is sometimes the animation is a little bit hit and miss, particularly in the fight scenes. It's not terrible, but you just know some of it looks like they've kind of skipped a few frames, and it kind of looks a little bit cheap sometimes, and you'll kind of notice it in the action sequences. I mean, that said, there are some pretty decent action sequences. I particularly like the final battle with Damian and Deathstroke, which I believe is slightly different from the actual comics, however. Some people may or may not like the humour in this one, I have to say. I actually quite liked it, I've got to say. There was some quite funny lines, particularly between Damian and Dick Grayson. I thought the chemistry between those two was brilliant, but I can see how some people may not like the sense of humour in that movie. But overall, I think this is a really good storyline. I really like the Damian Wayne character. I didn't think Batman had a huge amount of screen time in this, considering it's a Batman movie. He's in it a lot, obviously, but he didn't seem to be on screen as much as I would have thought, if that makes sense. Not really a criticism, but just an observation on that one. But I think here the actual story is quite an engaging story. It's interesting to sort of see a different side to Batman if you're not familiar with the actual comic book itself, and having a new Robin on the scene who is kind of already kind of trained but has his own ideas about things. Again, it makes for an interesting dynamic. I really liked him and Alfred's sort of interaction as well. I thought that was good. You've got a few cameos from other sort of DC characters and villains. You've got Killer Croc in this. You've got Kurt Langstrom, who obviously is Man-Bat, and you've got very, very blink and you'll miss some cameos from Joker and Two-Face as well. Overall, I think it's a pretty decent animated movie. I don't think it's quite as good as, I think Flashpoint is probably my favourite at this point. But it's fairly decent. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.